Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Curtis, and this kind of wraps up our video series on some of the biggest struggles that small retailers and e-commerce people have had. We've talked about how to compete against the big guys, Amazon and others, how to find resources, where to go to find things on how to run your business and grow your business, uh, what allies you need. We've talked about how I recommend that you start paying for things. How do you start a business, and how do you start a quilt shop, and how do you get that going? And the last section we're going to talk about today is actually employees. How to find the right employees. And we're talking about this because roughly 43% of business owners over the last couple of years reported that finding good employees was one of their biggest challenges, one of the hardest things they could do when they got to that point of meeting an employee, what they could do. Um, and and this is a really big deal for quilt shops because if you find the wrong employee, it's expensive. You got to find somebody to train them and then replace them, and just the time lost and their mistakes and other things. It just gets it the expenses just start to pile up and you start to lose money fairly quickly. So it's really important to find great talent and retain them. So one of the to ensure that you have and find and hire the right employees is to make sure you find somebody that can do the work, right? Most quilt shop owners actually, most of their employees are actually either part-time employees, um, or there are a few full-time people that can actually work during the day in the business hours. They're typically those that don't have a lot of responsibilities at home during the day. Their kids are all in school, or maybe they don't have any kids. Maybe they're in college or school themselves. They come in after school and work for you. And so those are all things. The other thing is to find people that are actually interested and have quilting and sewing as a hobby themselves. And that can be a little tricky, especially for some of those the ladies and things that are they have responsibilities in the evenings with their families. And so um, when you that's probably one of the hardest things. The other thing is look, ask your customer, put a now hiring sign on your window, on your counter, on your website. Those that come to you often will see that, and they can make recommendations. Some of the best employees that we've had in my shop have actually been clients first. They came and bought things from us, and they saw we're hiring, and so they say, "Hey, here it is." Likewise, it's also their referrals. We have a few people that have been hired through that we've hired that have been referrals from our clients that are granddaughters, nieces, nephews, friends, neighbors of clients. And so I think that's one of the biggest things to do is just start building that relationship. Make sure that that you set forth the expectations in that job posting. If you post it online, or when you're talking about it to somebody, make sure you set forth the right expectation of what the responsibilities are, both the pros and the cons. You're going to be on your feet 8 hours a day. You're going to be walking around. You're going to be carrying heavy bolts of fabric. You're going to be talking with clients and helping, or with customers and cutting fabric. So you've got to know how to make sure you know how to cut, fold, all of these things, measure out the fabric, and you've got to be able to do all of that and enjoy it. Understand that this is a workplace. It's not a hobby shop. We expect things to get done. And so just setting forth some of those expectations in the very beginning will help weed out those that are truly interested in having a job and those that are just wanting to be there so they can look at all the pretty fabric. I think that's probably one of the bigger issues that we run into is when we just hire the first person that comes along. We don't do a good interview process. We don't set forth expectations. That can help us, as well as when you set forth those expectations, you've got to follow through on them yourself. It's just like when you have kids and you tell them not to do something, or you're going to get the consequences. Even if those consequences are not fun for you, you still have to follow through with that so that the employee will learn, that bad behavior gets bad results. And so you've got to make sure to follow up with that. Employees are one of your biggest assets. They are your eyes and ears in front of your customers if you're not there, right? They can tell you what customers are saying, how they're responding, and likewise, uh, your employees are going to be there, and you need to be able to make sure that they are always having a smile on their face, that they're not being rude or inappropriate with customers, right? Um, and these are the things we go through. Sometimes you think you've got a right hire and everything works out for a few months, and then they're not working out anymore. Don't be afraid to let go of bad employees. Often those are things that cost us money in the long run. Keeping on bad employees, hoping and loving that they will, and hoping that they're going to change, and loving on them to get them to change. You've got to be able to have a firm rule and guidelines for hiring and firing your employees. Those are two of the biggest pain points people have. Their employees are your biggest asset. They are real people, but at the same time, you need to take care of your business so you can take care of your other employees, take care of your family, take care of your customers. If you hired the wrong person, don't be afraid to admit that mistake to yourself and to your other employees, even if it's not direct, and even if it's indirect by firing or letting them go. That is sometimes the best decision you can make. So, to find employees, ask your network, your ask your family, your customers, other employees for other good people to come in and work. Um, um, we found that has worked well. Make sure that you set forth clear expectations, and that you have a good process for hiring and a good criteria for hiring, good criteria for following. That criteria is going to be dependent on you and what you are looking for in an employee. Obviously, you're going to want someone who's a good hard worker, typically a good self-starter. And how do you evaluate those things? Well, that just comes with usually with experience, with a good intuition. You you know and a lot of times you'll know just by the way that they answer questions, you talk with them. I recommend that you at least talk with them for a good half hour before you hire them, and then always do a second interview. If you feel like if they feel like a good employee, don't hire them right off the bat after their first interview. Do a second one. Do a follow up interview to make sure that their first interview just wasn't they that they didn't have an off day or had a really good day, or that you had a really good day, or they had you want to make sure they're going to work with the team. During that second interview, I also recommend that if you can, show them around your shop and introduce them quickly to their other employees to see how they interact with one another. And then at the end of that, always get feedback from those employees. Get their first impressions of that potential employee from your current employees and see what their thoughts are, because they're going to have to work with each other and to get the work done. So that's my 2 cents on hiring people and working with employees and firing them. And I hope that you find help in that. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, talk to you later. Kate.